Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another direct-to-YouTube special. Today we're going to be playing with what is really closer to a mono-red aggro deck than a prison deck. I saw a card I've never seen before in the 5-0 deck list dump, and I had to try this out. I saw Fireflux Squad, which is a 4/3 with haste, and whenever it attacks, you may exile another target attacking creature you control. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, why is this cool? Well, look at the creatures I'm playing. Makes tokens. Makes tokens. Makes tokens. And a lot of these also get better the more tokens that you have, right? So, like let's say you play Goblin Rabblemaster into Fireflux Squad. You attack with the Goblin Rabblemaster, you make a trigger, the Fireflux Squad also triggers, you turn that new token into a, like, say, another Goblin Rabblemaster, you just, like, get your opponent dead so quickly. And I saw this and was pretty excited to go ahead and try it out. As far as the main deck goes, I'm not really sold on Shatter Skull Smashing. I've been playing this card in Historic, and most of the time it's felt like a land that just lightning bolts me with very little upside most of the time. It can be a removal spell for creatures that are in your way, which is cool and all, but most of the time I feel like this is worse than a mountain. And I'm going to try this out, but I don't think this is actually good in your Ancient Tomb deck. I think Mountain is just better, but I always like to try things, even if I think they're bad, to see whether or not my thought is actually correct. As far as the sideboard goes, it's very pointed. Fiery Confluence gets pointed at their face and kills them. Sulfur Elemental, fuck you, death and taxes. Like, you're already having enough trouble. We would like to kick you while you are down. And then we just have some more aggro cards that we can use to replace cards like Chalice of the Void and Trinisphere that might not be particularly good. Ignore the Hand of War Battlement side of the equation, but this is just a 2/3 that attacks and creates 2 more creatures every time that it attacks. So again, we have a very strong token sub-theme here. One thing that I do really like about this deck is Anji's Ravager, which we've played in, I think, 3 different Legacy decks recently. The ability for these red decks to refuel after they have their initial burst start is really important. And so this deck doesn't have Chandra Torch of Defiance, which is normally a staple of the deck. We're just playing more bodies instead. So this is kind of how it's looking to recoup some card advantage. Notably, we do have Blood Sun here as an additional early lock piece. I think that's all I have to say. Let's just jump into some matches, and if you're normally watching my content, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps so much more than you possibly could know. Alright. I think this opening hand is okay, but not amazing. I'm going to go ahead and keep it. This is certainly an aggro hand. I don't like seeing that. A Daze will be very good again. Never mind. Daze is only okay against us now. Goblin Rabblemaster presents the best clock if my opponent doesn't have anything here. But they're very likely to have something. So I think I'm actually going to lead on Legion Warboss instead. And this just resolves if my opponent has a Lightning Bolt, and then it gets bolted, and that's that. Oh, they didn't have Bolt. Oh, they did have Bolt, but we got a Goblin out of the equation. Nice. I mean, we take those misclicks. Absolutely. Actually, it probably wasn't a misclick so much as it was like they didn't have the correct stops set. So I'm going to get to try again with another goblin-based threat next turn. And then I might end up playing Shatter Skull Smashing to try and kill this Delver. It's gonna be awkward, though. And, like, maybe I should have just considered playing this as a tapped land. Yikes. So playing a creature doesn't do a lot of good here. I think I need to try to resolve this Blood Sun this turn, so that I can keep more mana around for City of Traders. And then if this gets, like, dazed or forced or something, I'm really far behind. Okay. So kind of the unfortunate thing here is that Fireflux Squad does have 3 toughness, so it's still vulnerable to Lightning Bolt. Oh, and my opponent has yet another bolt. This is just like hyper aggro, taking 7 this turn. So Shatter Skull Smashing is currently vulnerable to Daze, Spell Pierce, Force of Negation, Force of Will, which is basically everything. And my opponent didn't play another creature, they didn't play a sorcery speed cantrip or something. I don't know that Shatter Skull Smashing is actually very likely to resolve this turn. That said, I don't think I have a choice. Alright, I choose one target. Oh, hold on. Oh, I see. I haven't cast this on Magic Online before. I've only cast it on Arena, where the templating is different. So if this gets countered, I'm pretty much dead. Yeah. So I get lightning bolted down to 7. I get attacked down. Yeah. Like I can try to play out another turn, but I'm just effectively dead here. So I just accept the writing that's on the wall. Didn't even matter that we got the bonus Goblin Friend. Okay. On the play, Trinisphere is fine versus Delver, but on the draw, I usually cut it. I like Bone Crusher Giant as removal. I like Fiery Confluence as removal, or just a way to try and finish them off. It's awkward since it's an expensive non-creature spell, but something that can serve as an answer to more or less any creature that they have while also finishing this hard is just where I want to be. So now what am I going to board out? I like Fireflux Squad a little bit less against a Lightning Bolt deck. And it's also kind of bad against Daze, so I think that's going to be my starting point. And how many Trinispheres am I playing? 3. I want to keep threat density, and I want to keep my moon effects. Trinisphere is also solid on the play, but might go down. I'm at 19 creatures right now. I don't know that I want to drop below that number. I want a couple of persistent sources of damage, so I'm going to drop 1 Trinisphere on the play. There also could be an argument for dropping P and K, I think. I think I'd keep this hand. This hand is going to be very soft to an opposing wasteland, but otherwise has a lot of things going for it. So my sequencing is going to be turn 2 Trinisphere into turn 3 Blood Sun. That's the plan. My opponent has kept 7, which does not bode well for me. I could play this one slower, since they have just, like, passed. Which makes something like a Daze pretty likely. I could try to play Trinisphere around Daze next turn. Or I can just, like, jam 3-drop, 3-drop, 3-drop. But again, Wasteland is so good against me right now. I still have multiple land drops if I do get Wastelanded, so I think I am going to go ahead and try out Trinisphere. My opponent has so many free options that they can find off this Brainstorm. I do not expect this to resolve. That was a force pitch of force. I am happy with that. The Nightmare World is Delver plus Wasteland. That's not too spooky. It's obviously good. But if I end up resolving a Trinisphere, I'm not super worried about it. I'm going to go ahead and play a Blood Sun first. It allows me to do the best things with my mana if this ends up resolving. Which it does. And I don't think that can leave the battlefield any capacity. I think this is just getting played as a land. Tapped. Untapped. And without losing life. Alright, Blood Sun, good stuff. So this is a lot of damage. But unless my opponent's remaining 2 cards are a force plus a blue card, I have Fiery Confluence, which wipes the board. Bright Dragon conveniently is a 3-3. I am 1 mana short of being able to Trinisphere plus Fiery Confluence in the same turn cycle. But if I let them untap and that Sprite Dragon grows by 1, it is disastrous for me. So I think this is an opportunity where I go for it, playing around double Daze. Alright, we will go with 3 damage to each creature. Oh! It worked! Okay, this is good. I think I start out with Trinisphere. And then we'll try to cast Chalice correctly through Trinisphere, which is, like, really annoying. X is currently 1. Adjust. You may change the value of X. The value of X is 1. Okay. Alright, cancel. Pay XX. 1, 2. That pays XX. Adjust. You may change the value of X. The value of X is 1. Okay. Adjust. Do I tap 1 mana? Done. Man, what awful design changes they have made to this interaction. Alright, on the draw, I don't really like Trinispheres. I just find that it's so much more important to be playing towards the board and working for a win. When your opponent leads on a Delver and you lead on a Trinisphere, like, you're just getting lightning bolted every turn and it feels pretty bad. So I'm just going to bring in a couple more creatures, and I think call it good. Trinisphere is obviously very, very good against Dreadhorde Arcanist. And, like, I wouldn't fault someone for keeping Trinispheres. But in my experience, it just doesn't tend to work out. I don't really like this hand because, again, Wasteland is just so good. But I think this is my lot in life to attempt this. Okay. Chalice Resolving is great. My opponent could have something like an Abrade. So, like, this doesn't necessarily lock them out forever. My feeling is they have, like, a 2-drop plus an Abrade if this resolved. That basic land is very good. That means this Blood Moon has greatly dampened effect. And I probably don't cast this now. I think it's time for me to attempt to pivot to an aggro role here. Yep, that's expected. I'm very happy that I just drew a mountain. I was not wanting to play this untapped to play around days. Well, all right. Yeah, if this was just a mountain, I would not be taking 3 damage or 2 damage this turn. The Shatter Skull smashing this league. Oh, just got forced. Obviously pretty happy about that. So this league's Shatter Skull smashing has been cast as a removal spell once. And has been an awkward land once. Not like to pay 3 life. I don't need to do that much more damage to kill my opponent, theoretically. Again, this has cost me life 2 turns in a row now. Incredibly awkward. I think I'm going to cast Blood Moon this turn. I don't care about this spell. And I kind of want to turn these into lands that don't hurt me long term. If my opponent doesn't have creatures, they probably have counterspells, and I would prefer Fiery Confluence not get countered. My opponent's just going to fetch an island and let this resolve. Like, this is not a spell that has text. Oh, don't Brazen Borrower me. Yeah, that was one of the cards I was thinking about. That's just incredibly good against me from this board. The Shatter Skull, the Hammer's Pass, effectively did a lot to me. Turn's a little awkward. In that I can't play Fiery Confluence around Spell Piercer, Flusterstorm sort of card. I think I'm going to go ahead and do 1 damage to each creature and try to kill the Brazen Borrower. I think I have enough damage in hand where that's fine. I don't have double days. Second Brazen Borrower? What is 4 mana? Oh god, fuck. Alright. I really hope my opponent doesn't have a counterspell, but it kind of feels like they do based on that pause. We're going to go 2 damage to each creature, so that if my opponent casts 1 random spell, Grey Dragon dies. Still. There's a possibility I should even just do all 3, because the Sprite Dragon living means that I can't win. Maybe I should just do all 3. I can deal 5 damage very easily with these 2 creatures. Or sorry, I can deal 7 damage very easily with these 2 creatures. But if this thing lives, I die in 2 turns, and my clock's not better. Alright, so we're both hellbent. I need them to whiff this turn. Great. Alright. Alright, so Daze was their draw for the turn. That's fine. Top deck. What do you have for my opponent? Their demise. That was a bit of a nail biter. The Delver matchup is a lot harder than it used to be with these decks. Their card quality has gone up so much in the last few years. Hello, this is a direct from Phil ad. There will be no ads on the rest of this video. This is replacing those. So sometimes people ask me what's a good way they can support me if they don't physically have money to give me. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, you actually get something called Twitch Prime as well, which can give subscriptions to your favorite people for free. So there's going to be a link in the description which gives you the full details of how to set up your Twitch Prime and link it with your Amazon account. But essentially, once you've done that, all you do is you go to this purple button that says either subscribe or resubscribe, and you scroll down to free subscription with Twitch Prime. And I can click this button, and I can subscribe to someone and, give them the equivalent of $5 for free. And so if you regularly watch my content, taking 5 minutes to set up a Twitch account, link your Amazon Prime to it, and then clicking this button once a month is a great way to support me. So I watch Jorbs' Slay the Spire videos just about every day, so once a month I go and click this button, and I throw them some money without costing me anything. Food for thought. I'm starting off round 2 with an okay hand. I'm going to go ahead and keep it. I don't get to do anything cool on turn 1, but I have a lot of good plays for subsequent turns. I think I'm going to lead with tapped Shatter Skull Smashing. Again, just feeling like this is worse than Mountain. Because for curve-based reasons, assuming this Blood Sun doesn't end up resolving or I don't play it early, I really want to play this tapped land when it doesn't cost me life. But, now I'm vulnerable to a Wasteland on turn 1, whereas I wouldn't be if I just had 2 mountains. Really interesting turn. I am actually going to lead on Blood Sun. So if this gets countered, I'm good with that, because I still have a bunch of cards that are going to be annoying, and if this doesn't get countered, my mana is as good as possible for the rest of the game. Alright, Force Pitch Days Undoing, so we are playing against a Hull Breacher deck, in which case Trinisphere is the prize. That's the card in my hand that is going to be most potent. Very interesting. They have chosen to get Tundra against my Blood Moon deck. Speaking of, is that what we're doing? I think that's what we're doing. That's the line that allows me to keep City of Traders around. Yep. That's okay. I'm just playing a Haymaker every turn. They have set themselves back on mana. I am good with this as a whole. I would like to draw another land. Honestly, another Blood Moon would be great as well. That fulfills the request, technically. Else on 1 into Trinisphere. And then play Legion War Bosses off of my mana that's in play. That's fine. Okay, so I have a bunch of annoying stuff in play for my opponent now, and now I can focus on actually trying to win the game. My stuff is somewhat unlikely to get countered, or if they do counter it, it costs them an entire turn cycle. I think I'm okay with jamming a threat, but I don't get to play around days here. That's fine. Give it like a delve. I see. Dreadhorde Arcanist. So that doesn't really do anything. That's a 1/3 right now, as long as this stuff is in play. This is going to be quite good later. So since this has haste, I think I go for the War Boss this turn. Well, I mean, not go for, like, it's resolving. Okay. Oh, no, you don't even get to cast that for a Mentor. You can't because of Trinisphere. So this just ended up with you tapping a creature. Yeah, that's it's not gonna do quite what you want. There is a world where I just kill this Monastery Mentor now. Because it going out of control is one of the ways I could actually lose this game. But I think I'm going to go out of control faster than my opponent. Because of this stuff. Like, if they get 1/1/1 monk a turn, I'm good with that. I think I go ahead and attack with the War Boss still. If I trade it for Mentor, I'm good with that. So let's... Well, I guess this targets either way. Let's exile my Gabo and see what we get. Oh, I have an Anji's Ravager now. All in all, that's pretty cool. It's also just a persistent source of card draw for me now. The 3-mana countered card. Wall of 40 has a sense of humor. Alright, so Fireflux Squad looked pretty cool there. Like, I increased my total damage output by 1, while also giving me an Ancestral next turn. How to sideboard. I have a feeling the Blood Moon type stuff ends up being kind of weak. And slow. I think I'm going to try to board all of that and just, like, go to Threat City, population me. I think I like Sulfur Elemental for Mentor tokens. So my opponent is probably likely to have Hull Breacher, Days Undoing, Swords of Plowshares, Ponder Preordain, Brainstorm, Teferi. Maybe a couple of Planeswalkers, a couple of generic answers. I think just repeatedly putting my opponent to the test is good. And I think PNK is better than Hanawar Garrison, but I'm not 100% sure. So PNK is grindy, whereas Hanawar Garrison is just aggressive. Is this hand acceptable? So I go crappy Lightning Bolt land. From Mox, probably imprint this. Spirit Guide and attempt Trinisphere on turn 1. Then I have 2 persistent mana after that, I guess. This hand is not great. But it probably falls into the category of this is good enough to keep. Now that I drew a second Rabblemaster, there's a real argument to just imprint that to be better insulated against a turn 3 Mentor. So I'm going to do that. Rabblmasters are better in multiples, just unquestionably. But a safety net is nice because I don't expect this spell to resolve. My opponent is going to have Force of Will, Force of Negation, and Daze. So probably 8-ish hits, yeah. The deck list like this that I saw floating around had 2 Dazes. And I think 2 Force of Negations. I'm now in trouble if I miss a land drop. But I knew that going into this hand. Never didn't have it. Oh! So opponent played Ponder and then chose not to shuffle. I just want to point that out. So that means I probably found Force of Will, Force of Negation, or maybe another Ponder to just try again next turn. I could just play Goblin Rabblemaster here, because that plays around Force of Negation, but I'm just going to try to play the card that wins the game if my opponent just stumbled there. I am really curious about how good that Ponder was for them to not shuffle. Oh, they just, like, didn't want to show me Ancient Tomb? Okay, I don't think that I need to play Sulfur Elemental this turn. I'll take 1 more damage next turn, but then my opponent won't know about it. And I'll get to attack with Rabblemaster in the next turn cycle. Sulfur Elemental is also effectively uncounterable, so... Well, most of my cards are effectively uncounterable right now. Their Ancient Tomb was very good. I hope they just bounce my Trinosphere, honestly. And they did. Now my Sulfur Elemental is going to be just disgustingly good. I will have to Sorcery Speed it. But I think that's fine. This is what it feels like, huh? This is what it feels like. So that can attack and kill Teferi, and this can go at their dome. I would like to draw a land so that I don't have to shock myself with this Ancient Tomb. My life total is getting a bit touchy. Oh, I really don't like to see that. I meant a non-Ancient Tomb land, but thanks. There are various degrees of risk that I can take in this turn cycle. A lot of what I do boils down to whether or not I think I can afford to Trinosphere. If I Trinosphere, I don't get to cast another spell this game unless I draw a land or unless Swords to Plowshares resolves on one of my creatures. I think I need to Trinosphere. Otherwise, multiple spells from my opponent next turn is going to mess with my Sulfur Elemental ruins everything plan. If my opponent can play a land and play 2 spells this turn, I am in a shit ton of trouble. Because everything that I've set up is for this moment right here, where Swords to Plowshares gets cast on Rabblemaster, and then I respond to the trigger. So if my opponent can cast another spell right here, they get such an insane amount of value. Alright. Which one do I kill? I think I need to Kill this. Otherwise, you know, the 4 damage kills me because Sulfur Elemental increases its power by 1. And now I need to rip a land. I guess I could shock myself. Alright. I think I just attack with the 1. Shit. Well, this is the sort of reason why I just attacked with the 1. Drawing that second Ancient Tomb was just brutal this game. Dead. Yeah, I believe I have no outs here. I can't tap this Ancient Tomb to cast something like a Fiery Confluence, which would be my best out. Yeah, I'm just gonna save the seconds here. Unfortunate. I thought I was gonna come back from that one. Alright. Do I still like my sideboarding plan? What's the stats on this? 2-3. Still Lightning Bolt fodder. Maybe on the play, I swap for the PNKs. I don't know, PNK does shoot Hull Breacher and Mentor, though. I'll go ahead and keep like this. This hand's great. We'll keep it. Get to lead on Chalice of the Void, followed by Threat that plays around Daze. Excellent. The Rabble Master clocks the fastest, so you lead on Rabble Master if it's already protected. Force pitching a force, that's fine. I believe there are 2 Ancient Tombs in this list, by the way. So if I'm going to Fireflux Squad, I need to play a token producer this turn. Let's play a Legion War Boss this turn. This game is probably going to be tight. I think my opponent is currently favored. If they can just, like, play 2 cantrips this turn, attack for 4. Oh, they have something worse than that. So my opponent could just have a cantrip that turns this into a 3-3 that makes my attack with Legion Warboss bad. So that's something to keep in mind. I might not want to attack with Legion Warboss. I think I do want to play Fireflux Squad. don't think I want to attack with the War Boss. It would just get blocked by Dreadhorde Arcanist anyway. I will use this ability. I mean, it's an upgrade, but it's not what I'm looking for. Something with ETB value would have been much, much better here. And this is exactly why. And now my opponent gets to eat this for free. Or they could trade with my Fireflux squad, depending on where their priorities are. But I think you just take the free value and chump. Don't hate that. I think I just keep these back as token producers. I'm just very unwilling to lose one of my war bosses in combat. I like flipping a 3/3 there. My opponent takes 7 here. Am I willing to take 2 to play an Anji's Ravager? I think I am. My current plan is go wide of my opponent next turn. Send it all in, hope to kill them. Nice. Very nice. Definitely sweating it. This Monastery Mentor Hullbreacher Arcanist deck that has been floating around is super spooky. I don't want to play against this with most decks. Okay, opening hand this time is fine. I'm a little mana heavier than I would like to be, but Goblin Idiot into Goblin Idiot is usually a very aggressive start that in a vacuum is, like, fine. Again, these don't really look good here. Once Upon a Time could mean our opponent is on Elves, Snow-Covered Plains, so we're probably playing against a green-white Reclaimer deck of some nature. Alright, Once Upon a Time, reveal Plains, Thoughtseize you. I don't know. Like, that indicates that my opponent is a 4-color deck, but the snow decks aren't really, like, doing Once Upon a Time sort of stuff. My hand is now exceptionally bad. Yep. This is probably the play that makes the most sense on turn 1. But I just need mono gas off the top for the rest of the game. My opponent stumbles a bit. Like, maybe one more boss can spiral out of control, but like if they have snow-covered plains, they're likely to maybe have Swords to Plowshares, and then if they just remove this, I have a 1/1 and a do-nothing hand. Bleh. I feel pretty good about my evaluation that this should not really be in the deck. It hasn't, like, really saved my bacon yet. It's never been imprinted under a chrome mox. Alright, now I lose my fucking lands to Cabal Therapy. Yeah. Get out of my deck. I don't like these. Ah. Starting to get a better picture of what's going on. I don't really have a choice here. One of the goblins has to attack anyway. And now my opponent gets to do big dumb Nick Fit stuff. And I have no gas. Plains and snow-covered plains. I respect it. Although I wonder if, like, playing all snow-covereds is just correct for that deck for the misdirection of being snow in the first couple of turns. How much is this to sacrifice 3? So I want to play this pre-combat in case my opponent has opposition agent. Suppose I want to play this and just fling it at my opponent. Do they really have nothing? Or do they just have like some 6-mana bomb that they didn't hit the next land drop to play? Alright, that's surprising. So I'm playing against Nick Fit, which means that my Blood Moons suck, my Trinispheres suck, and my Chalices suck. I might have to keep some of that stuff of some nature. But I essentially just want all gas all the time. Of these, I think the Blood Sun is the best, mostly because it protects my mana. But, eh. Blood Moon is awful. That needs to get out. Trinisphere is really bad on the draw. Chalice doesn't hit the cards that actually matter in their deck. So this is 56. This is 60. And now it's a question of, like, is Blood Sun better than a 3-2 with Flash? They give me mana some portion of the time. They're not a Wasteland deck. Yeah. Maybe I'm just on the dude's plan. Get him in here. I actually feel like way better about the post-sideboard games. Because we just went up a lot of cards that are, like, that have text. Nope. This is fine. A little awkward if this card gets taken. off of Thoughtseize. I guess it's also awkward if the Chrome Box is taken, but eh. Yeah. Once Upon a Time was not necessarily giving me Nick Fit vibes. If I were the opponent, I would probably take the Anji's Ravager here. I think it's the best card in my hand by a pretty considerable margin. They have a removal spell, though. That might not be true. Lightning Bolt me! Would I like to? No. Am I going to? Yes. So the Anji's Ravager is the card that allows me to refuel from this really bad situation. So I think my opponent should have just left me with this. I would have ended up with a Goblin Rabblemaster instead, but, like, that would basically be all that I have. But again, if they just, like, go Green Source Abrupt Decay or something, then their line is fine. I end up with one less persistent mana source. Living Wish. Interesting. Opponent's doing some crazy stuff over there. I have literal no idea what this is going to get. Arena Rector. Okay, makes sense. I will play the land pre-combat. I think the value of guaranteeing that I do something with my cards is important. Doesn't have like a random exile clause or anything, does it? No, it does not. This is 4 mana. It is 4 mana. I'm going to be attacking into it next turn. I just don't really have a choice about that. But I can make a lot of power. Oh, everything just has to attack. I would be really happy to pick up, like, Fiery Confluence, maybe? Something of that nature. So what happens if I kill this pre-combat with Bonecrusher Giant? They'll maybe get something like a Sandworm Convergence, which would be annoying. What if they don't have exactly that, which prevents me from attacking? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm just short of lethal. If I attack, though, Fiery Confluence becomes a pretty easy win. This turn's pretty hard to play. I get to dig really hard for Fiery Confluence with Anji's Ravager. I think I like trying to play towards a Fiery Confluence kill here. I could go to combat, go to attackers, and then in attackers do this, though. But then things like Humility make my turn a little bit worse. I guess humility is okay. Alright. Let's stomp. And let's see what happens. It'll be good. But let's see how good. Oh shit, that's the Planeswalker one. Seems like things are fine though. I just had on my mind that that was the enchantment one, but that's Academy Rector. So my opponent will Ugin minus, wipe my board, and then I will play a Flash Sulfur Elemental and followed by another haste creature. So I feel pretty good about my life. Just boarding in Flash 3/2s, apparently very good. Yeah, I don't even know that I'll kill the Ugin. I think I'll just be going for my opponent's Dome next turn. You ever get paranoid that you've accidentally F2'd or F6'd when your opponent's been sitting there thinking for a while? That happens to me a lot. Now what? You have to produce 2 bodies this turn. Otherwise, the squad is getting in there. So they can convert a land into a life. Don't really know if that gets them anywhere, though. Yeah, they have no available mana. So this should just be very deterministic. Sulfur Elemental doing work this league. Like, it's bringing home the bread with his, like, table flip pose. I dig it. Alright, I'm on the draw against a Yorion deck. My opponent has mulliganed. I will be keeping this hand. I think turn 1 looks like Chrome Mox, Spirit Guide, Mountain, Chalice, into turn 2 Blood Sun. But my opponent has mulligan to 5, which starts to make turn 1 Blood Sun much more appealing, because my opponent is less likely to have a Force of Will. Turn 1 Brainstorm on the play main phase is interesting. I think I'm going to be playing a Chrome Mox and intentionally making it vulnerable to a Daze, since I do have Simian Spirit Guide. I think I will go ahead and pitch that it is the worst card in my hand by a pretty considerable margin. The earlier I play out this Blood Sun, the better it is, and if I get a 2-for-1 here, I am totally good with that. Alright, I should have kept the Spirit Guide to play around days. I need to play out the other land first. This may be good enough to just get there when protected by Chalice of the Void. Soul Land is obviously going to be my best draw. I don't think I want to cast a second Chalice of the Void. If my opponent blows it up, I will cast another, but otherwise I'd rather save this to put it on a different number. My opponent may just be doing that to fuel Uro later. That may not have been just an objective error. And now I'm probably at the point where my opponent doesn't have any outs. I guess they could have played, like, snow-covered land into Dead of Winter or something. That would have done it, but short of a 3-mana board wipe, we were in the clear there. My Blood Moons are probably not going to be good. And then, as far as the Trinispheres go, I think they're medium. It may just be better to board into more threats and just play like card after card after card and make my opponent's 80 card deck just consistently have answers to threats. I think Trinisphere is a fine to good card in this matchup. But, like, let's just look at this. So, like, say I cut Blood Moons, Trinispheres, and maybe even the Blood Suns when I'm on the draw. Then I can play Hanowar Garrison, Sulfur Elemental, and maybe 2 Ravagers. And just have just a super threat dance suite available. I might adjust this on the play differently. And it's also possible that I should just have Fiery Confluence to go directly to the face for 6 damage. But this feels pretty good. So, given this boarding strategy, I want to keep a hand with consistent mana. Stumbling over my own mana is probably the easiest way for me to lose. So this is probably just turn 1 Legion War Boss. And turn 2 PNK. And I think my crappy land just gets to live under Chrome Mox this match. Note that my opponent has like been mulliganing a lot with this deck. Yorion is not necessarily a free addition to decks like this one. Yeah, Legion Warboss and Goblin Rabblemaster ramp up on damage relatively quickly. I am pretty happy with this. That's okay. I still have a little leftover power. Technically, the sequencing should involve attacking with this goblin first, but like my opponent is not blocking with a Bird of Paradise, and a PNK in play doesn't change that. I will have some interesting questions to ask myself next turn, because I have 2 more creatures that I can play. But one of the easiest ways for me to lose is to a board wipe, and that would be playing more into a board wipe. There'll be worlds where I just sacrifice my Chromox to kill the bird. Just take my opponent 1 mana further away from Flashback Uro or like Hardcast a Yorion. That was no shuffle with the Ponder, followed by a Brainstorm. Sequencing there is a little interesting if they had both to start with. But it kind of feels like Ponder found Brainstorm to me, and then they're gonna fetch away the cards they don't like. Alright, let's try crashing in for 5, see if my opponent has an Ice Fang Coatl. If they do, I think I'm okay hucking Chromox at it. They do not. Use any target. I choose this. Sacrifice Chromox. It's not a feel-good Brainstorm. I also sort of wonder if that should have been done on my opponent's turn, so they have the potential to find another 1-drop play. But I don't know how many 1-cost mana dorks they actually have. Supreme Verdict is kind of what I'm trying to dodge here. That's fine. It's not great for me. But I might be able to finish through that. I kind of need to draw another thing on my turn, though, for that to happen. That'll do. This is my opponent at 9. Assuming they block Rabble Master, I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is 8, 9. So I need to play this Spirit Guide. This is the ultimate blowout stage if my opponent has a sweeper. I've dodged that bullet. So now my opponent needs to hit another piece of 1 mana interaction. So a Swords to Plowshares, for example, and they've already used 2 of the 4 in their 80 card deck. Assuming they do have 4, which I think is a valid assumption. Yeah, so just recounting. And this isn't attack or block, right? No. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with the other goblin. All right, good stuff. 26 life was not enough. Needed 27. Actually, like, even if the Uro sticks around another turn, I don't know that it's going to get them there. And now we're going to see if we can play for another trophy for the good old 5-0. Round 5. The opening hand is fine. I think I'm going to keep this. I don't know how I'm going to play it, and I'm kind of glad that I'm on the draw in some ways. I get information from my opponent that will help me figure out how to play this hand. Preordain. Could be a control deck, could be something like a Sneak and Show deck. One bottom, one top. The Blood Sun is the most important thing for me in many ways, because keeping this City of Traders around means that I can keep casting spells, and it's the only way that I'm going to get this Fire Lux squad into play easily without just, like, really slowing my roll. So I think I'm going to go for Blood Sun on turn 1. If this resolves, it shuts off my opponent's fetches, which is pretty good news for me. And I don't hate that draw. So this Blood Moon is now dead. I don't care about it. The plan is now going to be... Oh, okay, so we're playing against combo. We are probably playing against Ant, and I have the wrong cards for that matchup. So the game plan is just kill the opponent. This is a time where, like, unknowingly to me, but if I had played Blood Moon over Blood Sun, it would have been much stronger. Oh, it's Doomsday, not Ant. Okay, that's fine. Plan against Doomsday is kill them. Okay, good to know. My best draw is Trinisphere. It might be one of my only draws that's super good. I can Chalice of the Void on X equals 2 because my opponent is It's probably pretty unlikely to get a Cavern of Souls to play around that. If I don't draw Trinisphere or Chalice, I just play Fireflux Squad and hope that killing my opponent in 2 turns is good enough. It probably isn't. Actually, do I just kill them next turn in some worlds? Oh, hold on. Do I just kill them next turn now? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus Mentor is 9. Yeah, I think I just kill them now. Huh, that was unexpected. I forgot about the Doomsday life total difference. I'll just count one more time. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with Mentor. Yeah, that is death. Working towards that trophy. Okay, so the Blood Moon and Blood Suns are pretty eh. I think I like things that clock more than that, especially when my opponent's on the play. So I think I'm going to do a similar plan to what I did last round, where I just junk my cards that are of medium power level in order to get my opponent dead faster. I think I like Ravagers, and then do I want a 4/3 that's castable off 3 mana or 6 damage directly to the dome? Actually, P and K is probably pretty bad. Like, that's just slow. That can give me all of these instead. And P and K, and this is, so P and K represents 4 damage the next turn without any additional mana investment, and Bone Crusher Giant does the same, while also, like, technically being some reach. I think I like boarding like this. On the play, I can consider these. Like, they have real impact on the play that they don't when I'm on the draw. My opponent's Doomsday is going to have to win the turn they cast it most of the time. If I get Duressed and lose Chrome Mox, this hand is big doo-doo stinky. But I think I have to keep it. Nice. Gonna bin one of these, play this, and jam Trinisphere down my opponent's throat. Alright, that's a force pitch of force. That means the next Trinisphere is pretty likely to resolve. JK. We'll aggro instead. I guess I Fireflux Squad now. Just crash in for 4. Next turn I play Goblin Rabblemaster. It creates a token. The next turn, Goblin Rabblemaster would attack for 4. I guess it's a question of, like, is this City of Traders actually relevant? If I play a 3-drop this turn, I could no, I can't theoretically double 3-drop next turn. I guess if I play Rabble Master this turn, my opponent goes to 16. They cast Doomsday, they go to 8, then Goblin Rabble Master plus Fireflux Squad is lethal. Whereas if I attack with Fireflux Squad, they're 13. Yeah, I think this ends up being better because of Doomsday-based math. It allows me to hit for a big chunk next turn, which is what I care about. My opponent needs to have both Dark Ritual and Doomsday, and also a counterspell, probably? I want to play this around days. I think my life total is not relevant. Well, I guess let's do this way. So let's float this. Play Ancient Doom. Sacrifice that. And then play the squad. Let's always yield to that. That's going to be fine. I attack with everything. I want to put this on bottom. So that Goblin Rabble Master's thing procs first. Then I will go ahead and do this. This turned into a War Boss, which nets me 1 damage. Alright, so I just have lethal on board. Opponent has to win this turn. And they don't, and wouldn't you know it, I pick up the trophy. This is where I need to do, like, some finger guns or something, like, haha, got it, bang, bang, bang. Alright, trophy here feels pretty good. I like this build. It's weird that the solution to a lot of my matchups was, hey, board in more creatures, idiot, rather than, like, board in cards that are just relevant for the matchup. But it was always just board out your worst thing and board in more things that get opponent dead. And I kind of respect that. I don't really like Shatter Skull Smashing as a whole. I feel like it was awkward. It made my sequencing pretty bad in a couple of matches, and like we hardcast it once or twice, and we put it under a Chrome Mox once. But as a whole, I'm not super sold on that. I do really like Fireflux Squad, and I don't say that to like hype up the video or anything like that. But upgrading your random tokens that like basically don't have text into things that are going to have a higher impact on the game and require a removal spell or sweeper to answer is pretty good for something that has like near reality smasher amounts of damage with haste. So I would absolutely be willing to run this back, and I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did and you made it this far, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, that sort of stuff. It really helps out my channel. Have a great rest of the day.